talking about the security side. In other words, right off the bat, when you log into PinPoint, if you aren't enabled to go into the CRM as a user, you won't see the menu choice or selection right here. So, how do I make a user appear on this screen? Now, if you're not an administrator of your system, I apologize that I'll show you this, but you might want to mention to your administrator, whoever takes care of, security, to let them know you want to be on the CRM side. And, if you have any questions, you can let us know. It's in the manual, but or you could tell them about it here. So before I go into the CRM, again, if I didn't have it turned on for me, the user, I wouldn't see this at all. But to make it so that I can see it, what you do is that you can go in actually one of two ways. Number one, first off in here, under Admin, Security, Users. And then the next one I'll talk about are groups. But I'm going to pick Users first. Now, by the way, just because you allow a user into the CRM module portion doesn't mean that they can see everything, for example, or do everything. And even though you'll see shortly that I can update a group on some of the attributes they can do, that doesn't mean that they'll have access to every single account and contact unless you allow it. But in the same example, in PinPoint, we have what's called a super user. And so if I click on users, you will notice that there's a super user box. Where is it up here? Super user. Okay? A super user means that that person will be able to at least see every document that's in the system. I'm talking on the document management side. They'll be able to at least see. I say at least see because super user doesn't make them an administrator. It's basically saying, hey, I don't want to have to worry about this person's security as far as what documents they can see or not because they can see everything. Now, yes, of course, they could be an administrator too, but what a super user simply means is that in PinPoint, you assign them either at the cabinet, the folder, or the document type as a group, but by making them a super user, that supersedes that. We have the same thing for the CRM. So, if you want a person to be able to at least see all the activity and things that's in there, you can make them a CRM super user. If not, in other words, you don't want them to see everything, you can go under menu, once again admin and once again security, but I'm going to go down to the group this time. So just like in PinPoint document management, they have to be in a group no matter what. Even if they're a super user, they still have to be in a group because that's where you could say what they can do. So I'm going to just go down, and one of the things you'll notice is this is on your menu now, or I'm sorry, on your security for groups. What this obviously means is, are you going to let them begin by looking at accounts and contacts? Are you going to let them read tasks, appointments, opportunity type things? Are you going to let them edit those? I'll say activities because activities could be a lot of things. Are you going to let them delete some of those activities? The accounts and the contacts, will you be able to let, or I'm sorry, basically they've obviously got to have at least that to get in, and probably you want them to look at the tasks, maybe you don't. If you want them to be able to to edit any accounts or contacts, meaning change or update the information, and obviously will you allow this group to do that. Just like before though, once you have a group, you can override those settings because they show up at the very end here. Like in this case, let's say that maybe we're not going to let this person and this person do any of the CRM account or contact edits, as an example. So, first and foremost, if you have placed a group of users or a user that you've now enabled them to go into the CRM, if they are not a super user, then you haven't given them rights to look at anything yet. You've given them the rights to look and maybe edit, but you haven't assigned anything that they can look at yet, just like in PinPoint. So if you want to, I'm going to go into the group right now. I apologize. I'm going into the CRM right now. So when I go into the CRM, you will notice that I have accounts, contacts, campaigns. These are tasks, and appointments are transactional. This is going to give me the ability to now look at the documents that are associated with those accounts or contacts. Now, I'm going to start with accounts, and I want to go through and just show you some examples here. This on top is to search for all your accounts, or through your accounts, I apologize. So if you had thousands of them and you said, I want to pull all the ones from a certain state, or a specific account name, or from certain date ranges that they were created, you can use that to search for them. Obviously, I don't have that many, but if you select one of them that appears, like if I were to go up here, obviously, and let's see, there's a lot of Illinois, so I'm just going to say the state has to, be Illinois. So I can find anything that was in Illinois here. So just like before, you can filter down. Now, if I wanted to open one of these accounts to look at or to update the information, I could simply click here. By doing that, it fills in the information that I have about them here. Now, let me back up for just a moment. A CRM, to me, doesn't necessarily mean, and I'm going to go back and just refresh the screen. Oh, I have everybody back already, I'm sorry. But what I was going to say was, a lot of people think of it customer relations and pre-customer sales and those type of things. These could be projects. These could be groupings. These could be classrooms. This could be whatever you define them as. Whether this is a facility for insurance, and then I have the people that are, the contacts would be my policy holders. So you can use this any way you want. And what I mean by that is you will notice there are what we call defined fields down here. Okay? Those defined fields, you could set the master for your accounts. And just so you know, there normally is an account with one or more contacts associated to that account. So in a hierarchical, if this was Acme Company, and maybe I wanted, or let's say Acme Wax, and I wanted to see all the contacts that were in here, I can look and see I only have one contact. But the point is that these are my contacts that I could associate to the account. Now, let's say, though, that you were going to use this, and you'll notice the headings here, number of employees, company worth, notes, and so forth. If I pick on this person, notice they now say project number, and I didn't define others, because you can set the master labels of what you want them to be. But now, if this happens to be a different type of account, maybe this is going to be, like I said, a support group. I might have different headings for that, and that's what this blue labels button represents. So here is where you could click and set the label. So for this one, it's got project number or staff, group session, for example. So if I were to open up that particular account, I could see the group session, and I forgot what other thing. Oh, project number of staff, for example. Okay, now that's just me looking at the demographic type of this information. I also have this in context, and I'm going to come back and talk about those transactions over on the right side, but contacts look the same way in the sense that these are my contacts. Once again, I could drill down. Once again, I could go here and set the master labels, and then I can override those at the contact. You'll also notice here there's an email button, which is also on the account screen. I didn't mention that, but you can email these contacts or email these accounts. But what this button is if you wanted to email like everybody. If you want to, notice I click on the button, and now we have email templates that'll do mail merges for you. So, I mean, this is silly, but what you'll see here is that it's going to put in their first name and their account name or whatever. Here was a project team announcement, and I'll show you how. And this will put in whoever the user is that sends it. So if I use this template, it's going to say thank you from me. If you were to use it, it would say thank you from you, obviously, and so forth. So I'll come back to that, but I just wanted to point out that button. Now, if I go back to here and accounts, you will notice that you have both here and what looked like heads on the contact screen. So I'm going to go over to that one just to show you these are the same thing. If you click on this one, this is so you could import all of your accounts. So if you had one that you were using before or you're just bringing them in, it's an Excel spreadsheet, download the template so you could see the format, and then you could add the accounts and it'll populate your accounts for you. The account name here, if I go to add an account right now, notice this field here, account name, which is required. That particular box is a unique field so that if you were to import again, if the account exists, it will update the fields. It wouldn't create another record for that. Okay? So I just kind of wanted to point that out for a moment too on an upload if you have that as a question. I mentioned that was on the contact screen as well, and it is. It just shows as a different symbol, but that's to load contacts. So again, the accounts could be classrooms, and this could be students to those classrooms, whatever it happens to be. Okay, I'm going to go back first to the account screen one more time to show you some of those transactions. And you'll notice that those buttons were also over on the side for the contact. So do I want to work at the account level as far as some information, or do I want to be down at a certain contact keeping my notes? Whatever works. I've seen people just create accounts rather than contacts, and they just come in here and kind of reference all their people. It's more of a Rolodex. I mean, you could do that too. You'll notice now you can sort by ascending and descending order as well. And if you needed to add an account, you can click here as long as you have the rights to. You'll also notice that here is the account name, and over here, the very first button is a tracker. So for example, if I went into Acme Wax right now, and I was going to start a phone call with them maybe, maybe I'm going to start it right now, and I just want to save that, I'll just say a phone call or something. Oops. Because maybe I want to track how long I'm spending with them. So now I have this out here as one of my timers going for essentially, and when I'm done, I could simply just, and I don't have to stay on the screen, by the way. I could do my thing, show my stuff, but when I'm done, I could come back in and set the end time, for example. And then by setting the end time, obviously, then I can see the duration of that and so forth. So that's what the little timer means there. In any case, you'll also notice next to this a lock. Now, this lock represents, do you want to allow user groups in here? So let's say for Acme Wax, I'm going to click on that. Once again, if they were a super user though, that wouldn't matter. But now here, I could do it by user rather than having to do whole groups. I could simply just add the users that I want to have access to that particular account. Okay, the next one is opportunities. I'm going to look at opportunities. To me really are steps. So it doesn't have to be opportunities like a financial forecast, which you can obviously do, but I have steps in here. It's a workflow essentially for what I have to do. If this was a customer or potential customer, I might have, in 2 days or whatever, call them, and then I'm going to send an email, and then I'm going to call again, or whatever those happen to be, or somebody else does something. It could be assigned to a group, or it could be assigned to a user. Okay, if I wanted to create another set of steps, I could just go right here and create a new opportunity. And here, it looks a little busy, but you can create opportunities and save them as a template. So in other words, if I have sales opportunities or projects, I can have what we'll call a template, which means when it comes time, I can just use that, which has incorporated into it already steps. So I don't have to go building these every time, as you'll notice here. But while I'm on this screen, both of these tasks are complete. I'm going to take one off complete for just a moment. Okay. Now, currently, I'm going to just get out of this for a moment. Oops, I didn't mean to. I didn't have to create one there. So right here, you'll notice this. I can look at the steps to see what's going on. Okay? I made this, though, what I'll call a template. Simply means this, that if I have a brand new contact in the system or an account, I can go in and both look at the opportunities or set up an opportunity, meaning get started. Okay? You can also do it at what we refer to as a campaign. A campaign, once again, is really a header record, but I'm going to go in and show you that, let's say that Susan Powers there, this first person down here, I'm going to start a campaign, meaning maybe she's a new student, or maybe she's a new vendor, or or that is a new vendor, or whatever the situation. Where I'm going with that is that I can create now, and I'm just going to say this one will be for Susan Powers sales or something, just making a name up. And the goal would be to sell her, for example. If I don't put a date, it'll default to today's date. So the account or the contact, and maybe the account is, and now by the way, when I pick an account, I can only see the contacts that are related to them. So I only have one. Okay? Now, what I could do though is I could use the opportunities. Remember, here's Project X. So when I create the opportunity, it actually created that, and now if I go back into the account or to the contact, and I'll go to Susan Powers here, you could see, 518, we started one. If I want to see the steps, I could see what's going on when a step is completed. Now the forecast started at 30%, okay? I forgot I turned that one thing off, I apologize, on the completed. But one of the things that you'll notice if these weren't completed was there was a thumbs up or a thumbs down. When you do a step, you could set that if it's successful, how many percent do you want it to go down? If it's positive, how many steps do you want it to go up? So when you saw the red and green thumb, if this was a meeting and we just didn't have it and I clicked the green thumb, might mean how far are we along in the project? This would have dropped to 25% as an example because my fail rate was 5%. If we did the meeting, I said, hey, we're 10% closer to completing the project as an example. I know that's confusing maybe. Maybe you don't want to use opportunities, but it is a nice way to measure and see that things get done because these are not related to a document. These are related to activities. Now, as I kind of follow along here, you will notice I could set up tasks. So if I had a task with Susan, I have one right now, but I can set up a new task as well. When we do it, we do just like in the PinPoint DMS side, where it opens a new tab for you. And, I could even go in here and set up an account or the contact. But again, if I'm working on this, I want to have this with Susan. Maybe it's going to be later today and I could set the time even. Oops. And in here, you will notice that I can set an appointment type and then save that. Oops, I didn't enter a title. Okay. And that task was created. So I can do tasks, I can do appointments, and so when you come here under Susan once again, you will also notice there's an appointment. Now if you set up an appointment right now, you can also, or I shouldn't say you could, but you have it, it will send, I'll just go in here and show you a new one. You can have it send it to you. So here with Susan Powers, I'll send it, and this will send, oh, I'm sorry, back, wrong spot. I can send to her, for example, the actual email that we're going to have, and it will send an appointment schedule. So if you're using Google or Gmail, or if you're using Microsoft Outlook, it will send her, in this case, and you, that schedule email to click, and it'll update your calendar for you. As I follow this along, if I wanted to send an email to Susan, again, I can pick from the template. I could type my own, if this was scratch. I could have it carbon copy to me, and also when I send these, it'll also put it into all of those emails and transactions and things are going in here. Let's say that Susan sent me an email or something. I can always take my email or notes or whatever it happens to be, and I'm just going to do this. Let's say this person sent me a note, and I just wanted to save it, so I can keep track of the notes as well. I also can look at everything that I have on this person. So here I could see any notes that we have. If I wanted to look at any emails, if I had any to her, any tasks I have set up, any appointments. So when you go pick on these guys, like Bill Smith here, I think I've sent emails to. If I look at any of his emails, yeah, I could see when they were sent and what it said and so forth. Okay. So one of the other buttons down here, and by the way, this was going right to the opportunity instead of where I said add opportunity or add task or add appointment. That's where these were taking me. I also have where I build the templates for the email. So if I wanted to say, you know, classroom assignments or something, you know, so I can, you know, say here I'll go dear, and then maybe we'll go right to the contact we'll be sending these from. So we'll say first name. And I'm just going to say thank you for your time or whatever. And then if I wanted to sign this, user fields are me. So that would be my first name. And, you know, maybe I add my last name. And then maybe down here I'll just put my email or whoever's email sending this. Okay. If I wanted the date in there or whatever. So I could use these, build a little table, you know, to insert dates and this kind of stuff. So you've got these things that you can use and then save the template. So you can build a nice little template or whatever and then save it. And then that would become available, obviously, because if I go in to any of these people, or I'm on accounts, but it doesn't matter, but if I were to go in to send an email, I would have that as an option. Oh, I thought, or maybe I didn't save it. I'm sorry, I apologize, I didn't hit the save at the end. So I would have that, though. Oh, it was under contacts, that's why. I'm sorry, because I didn't have it as an account. If you have contact and account, you can, but unless I didn't save it, but let me just find out. Yes, there it is. Again, I had signed it to account, I'm sorry, to a contact, not to an account. So it wouldn't make sense to email it from an account. So, you know, here it would fill in the contact's first name and my first name and last name and my email address, and then I would just send this, you know, class update. And I can, again, have it CC me if I want to, and send that. So that would be, you know, on that person's list as well then, too. So I think it was this person. Yeah. And it has my first name and last name and my email address. Notice what I can do here. I can go in and look at files now that are related. Well, what do I mean by that? I can say, I want to see for Smith Brothers, I want to see their documents. And here I can go in and get to their documents as well. So I'm associating, and if I looked at a contact though, I might not have any documents associated to the account and the contact, which I don't. You will see there is a folder here called CRM Special. I'll explain what that does in a moment. But let's go in to the document management side and look at where you can associate an account or a contact, and a contact, or a contact, to either a cabinet, to folder or folders, or to just certain documents. So in here I'm going to go under Setup, Cabinet Types first. Under here you'll notice a little link button now. So if I wanted to link, say, the entire vendor cabinet, I can hit this button, and I'm going to assign that to Smith Brothers, but only to the contact Adam Powers that they're related, for example. So by doing this, Smith Brothers and Adam Powers, you will notice that now when I go in here under CRM, and I go CRM Files, and I take Smith Brothers, I could see clients and the vendors, but if I go down to him, was it one of these guys? I can't remember, I'm sorry. Oh, there it is, Adam Powers. Then I see all the cabinet. Now I only have one folder in this one, but you would see all the folders that go along with that vendor. Okay, so that was at the cabinet level to associate. Let's say you want to do something that's probably more frequent, and what you want to do is you want to associate a folder or folders. Under Setup, under Manage Folders, let's say I pick vendors, or I only had one in there, so let me pick clients. So now you have a little, the little chain link here. So if I wanted to link this, and I've linked these a few times, but if I wanted to link this vendor, or I don't know, let's see what I have. Do I have anything else? I don't have anybody in there. I really haven't played with this one much. I apologize. Okay, let's say, you know, this person. I could just click on that and say, okay, link this to the support group and maybe just that, and it's done. So that was me taking a folder. So if I go into the system now, under CRM, and I look at CRM Files, you'll notice that if I go in here, I think I did support group, right? Not even thinking as I'm doing these, I apologize, I'm just kind of doing them. But under support group, if that's what I've given them, there it is, projects, prospects, Raymond Johnson, and if I had any documents in there, they would be related. Now, the last one, you can relate to a document alone. So let's say you go in here, under regular looking up documents. So I use this screen normally, and I go in and I pick one of the clients, and I look at this document. And for this document, you'll see there's a, sorry, I haven't installed that yet, the new one. You will notice that there's a chain, again, a chain link. By the way, for those of you that use workflow, if you have a workflow running, you can click on this and you can move the status. That's new now. You can also roll back on a check-in for workflow. That was also added in this 3.0 version. But right here, if I wanted to make this document, and let's say I want to set it up to account a support group and contact Jane. And again, I didn't have to go to the contact, but let's just say that this document's related to Jane. So if I go in again, and I'm working on support group, but I changed to Jane, notice that, and Jane had something from before, that's fine, but what you'll notice is we gave her access to one document. So if you give access to documents, not folders, not cabinets, they go into the CRM Special Cabinet so they can see them. So this would be a list of any document, no matter where they were from, showing you here, just so you could see the associated link. You could still open it, and if you have the rights to update it, you could do that from here. But I wanted to point out that's what CRM Special stands for. Not sure if that'll stay the name, but basically it's like a special request or special documents that you want to see. So that's what that represents. Okay. With that, is there anything that I could answer? And I'm going to unmute your phones now.